Hey, my name's Julian Faust. Welcome to the Profits and Panels podcast. Today, I'm joined by Kevin Midday. Kevin, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started at SMT and how you got involved within the energy sector?
Yeah, I guess I've been involved in renewables since I was like 24. So I've been doing renewables. I was in nuclear for a couple years right out of college, and then switched over to solar when I was like 24, and started out with Tesla. I was actually just throwing panels up on the roof with them. Uh, I called it my grad school. So instead of going to grad school when I was 24, I decided to get a manual labor job and learn the trade right from the get-go. But after about a year throwing up panels for Tesla, I went back to engineering for them, and then eventually got picked up by a developer in my late 20s, and I've been doing renewable development for solar and then into battery storage for a little under a decade now, specifically for development. So, I'm an engineer by trade, and I've just been representing developers for a good amount of time now. So that's the background.
What made you want to go from like that blue collar, super hands on, like actually implementing the panels back to school, learning more of that engineering side?
My bachelor's is in engineering. I'm a mechanical engineer by degree, I guess. But I've always loved the trades. I love welding. I love working on cars. I like electrical. I like the electrical trades. That's what I did, for Tesla originally. Um, I love it, and I think it's a really good way to understand and be a better engineer is to understand terminations, to understand how the conductors are pulled. Um, it really helps out when you're managing a team of engineers, especially for the development purposes. So I don't know. I got into it just to get some hands-on experience, but to get back into engineering, I like working with my mind too, and it doesn't hurt to uh, do what you went to college for. So you might as well use it if you got it, I guess.
And when did you decide to go from being an engineer to sort of the management role? How'd that changeover happen for you?
I don't want to say it was organically because it, you know, takes a lot of work to get into development and really understand how developers think and work. But I started out just assisting developers and helping them understand engineering. I had a small consulting company that would, frankly, I was doing AutoCAD designs for a couple small residential and commercial solar design or solar installers. And then I was also helping on the engineering front just to help diagnose and better engineer designs for larger projects. And then eventually a developer. I was working for a company called Lodestar Energy up in New England, just a small shop of guys, good guys, and eventually just came on full time with them. So, it started out with engineering. That's kind of how I got my foot in the door, and then I went into managing construction for them, and then it's developers, especially the small guys. I like to use the term boutique developers. I keep hearing that term, and I think it applies to how I've been supported over the last couple of years. But you wear a lot of hats, right? It's not like you have a team of independent engineers that you can turn to. There's not a team of construction managers. It's like, hey, we got a couple projects rolling. What do you think about this design? Um, there's a lot that goes into it that you just have to pick up and learn, right? You got to learn the commissioning process. You got to learn interconnect. You got to learn development, permitting. You got to know all of it. So, and I think you fall into what you're good at, you know. So and you get paid off of what you're good at. So you find where it applies pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely. Gotta find sort of like creating your passion in a way. You get good at it, then you start to like it a little bit.
Yeah. I don't do a lot of lawyer stuff, so clearly I'm not a good lawyer.
Yeah. And so what does your day to day at your current job look like now?
So, what S&T Energy does is we are a standalone energy storage developer. We own, we operate battery energy storage projects. We're primarily positioned in Texas. I mean, what is our goal every day? It's to find new developments, new projects, understand interconnection, and understand interconnection feasibility, get it through the permitting stage, and then ultimately finance and construct. I take everything from the kind of the execution side. So once everything's permitted and interconnect is solidified, then I'm responsible for building it. And once we raise the funds, I'm not directly responsible for that either, but I'm responsible for spending all the money that's raised.
Hmm.
Yeah, so what is day to day? It's executing our construction contracts and building all the project that S&T Energy has developed, prior to my arrival.
How do you guys go about finding those contracts?
EPC contracts are, we're always shopping around for new opportunities, new people to work with, word of mouth, people that approach us. I mean, as an example, the past EPC that we've used, we've constructed over 10 projects with them, and I actually worked with them in my prior position and other developer positions. So, um, you know, you kind of find a good one, you stick with it, and make sure the pricing can support your financial model, and keep rolling with them if you like them. So the EPC contractors that we use, we're always open to taking on more, but we do tend to find one we like and stick with them.
And are your competitors doing the same thing to find business?
I
Like
think
word of mouth, that sort of way of reaching out?
I think so, but I think we do it better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, uh, yeah, it's always a competition of who can build it more cost effectively. And what am I responsible for? I'm responsible for building projects on time and on budget, right? With and being cognizant of safety and quality at the same time, right? I can't deliver a project that won't function for more than a year, right? We got to make sure these things work. But how do you cut costs? Is you have a good relationship with your EPC. You make sure that they're making money and building a quality project, because this isn't a one-time contract, right? We're trying to build a lot of projects with you. I want to make sure you're building this efficiently. So the next time I ask you for a price, you don't tack on last time's experience that might have gone bad. I want you to have a good experience so that, the next time we do this, it's going to continue going in the south direction rather than north.
And you're saying that these people that you partner with will buy multiple contracts because a lot of the times it's the government who is buying those contracts. Is that how it goes?
I mean, you're attributing, nothing we do is like government related. The EPC is your general contractor. So
Hmm.
we're hiring a GC to physically build a project.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. What are some of the metrics that you guys are looking to improve within the business?
Metrics to improve. I don't know. What makes SMT a successful company is we pick good projects. We have a low burn rate and a high success rate for the projects that we develop. So, we can't just go off to any substation and say this is a good interconnect. Let's spend a lot of money on developing it and then hit a red flag. Hey, this we got a neighbor that doesn't want us here. We're not by right. We're building on top of a wetland, or this interconnect is never going to work because the substation can't support it. So we do a ton of diligence. We have a really smart team of people that are, I think, the best in the world at site selection, and we have a really low attrition rate with our projects. And I think we do the pre-construction, the development phase better than anyone in the industry. When it arrives on my lap, it's my responsibility to make sure that we don't have, make sure we can construct this project. Everything that was developed is buildable. And I'm not going around saying, I can't believe that this is how we permitted it because this isn't what I wanted to build, or this isn't what we promised to build. So it's managing it through the entire process, and then just having a good relationship with your contractor. You got to keep your costs down. You got to know how to build these things and help your EPC all the way through.
And do you guys, when it comes to having that great team, like you said, just finding the right places to build and all that stuff, do you attribute your success to that sort of thing? Or what else is putting you ahead of other businesses, making you guys what you say is the best in the industry?
What sets us apart?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, there's we refer to it as like the legs of the stool, right? What makes a good project? You have interconnection. You got to make sure it's feasible, right? And cost effective. You have to make sure that your permitting is going to work, right? We got to make sure that you can build in the location that you selected. So real estate and permitting is really important. And then construction is my department, right? I got to make sure that everything that those guys promised in their applications is going to be buildable. Our team is synced, right? Everyone is very good at what they do, and in order to make this process flow effectively and cost efficiently and cost effectively, is that everyone's in sync and says, "What are we building here? I'm going to promise that to the permitting authority, right? What are we building from an interconnection standpoint? I'm going to explain that to the TDSP and make sure that the poles are in the exact location that is up to their standards. I'm going to make sure this relay is specified because that's what they require. I'm not going to have to restudy for that. Or this is the inverter that, hey TDSP, this is the inverter that I want to procure at the time of construction in 2 years. It's going to be around in 2 years, and the manufacturer is going to drop it from their manufacturing queue. And it's also up to the standards of all the different, grid requirements that are in play at the time and will be in play. We're not picking some janky inverter, right? We're doing what we believe will be buildable. So, I mean, there's just a ton that goes into it, and you got to have knowledge of you got to be burned a couple of times before you know what's going to bite you. And I think we have the scars to show that we know what we're doing. And very rarely do we have projects drop out. Very rarely do we have, significant design changes. Once we find a site, we go and we build it.
How has AI changed the game for SMT, whether it's been on the engineering side or on the business side?
Oh, interesting question. I like that. AI is changing a lot of stuff, not just for how we do business, but also what is it doing to the grid, right? Because we're operating in Texas and these guys use a ton of power, right? So that's it's affecting the draw and the physical requirements of the load for the ERCOT ISO. So I mean, what do I use AI for? I think I use AI for pretty much what everybody else uses it for. It's a crutch. It's an aid, right? It helps me diagnose, different processes really quickly. It's basically a glorified Google to me. But hell, I'm just an engineer. But what is it doing to the grid, man? It's unbelievable. Some of these AI proposed projects are a gigawatt. A gigawatt is a nuclear plant. Like is an insane amount of power. I mean, 1 gig right now, the peak load of ERCOT is in the 80s, 85 gigs of load at peak, right? That's when everybody in the state is home cooking dinner and blasting air conditioning when it's 100 degrees out. One data center can be one. It's just an insane amount of power that is coming in that these guys need, and they need it on a very reliable basis. And it's like it's constant. You don't turn these servers off. They just require a ton of cool. It's an exciting time to be in grid reliability for sure. So yeah, that's changing the game a lot for us. We're tracking down the forecasted load growth in ERCOT and figuring out where these things are going to be and how we can support it. Because where we can support is where we can be, you know, revenue positive. So we're definitely looking at it.
Do you ever see any major spikes in energy out of nowhere almost, where it becomes a bit of a concern?
I mean, we're always tracking the grid and the load profile of every circuit, and that's how we find projects. Where is there the whole point of batteries is for grid stability, right? Where is there a deficit and where can we help, right? Because that's where we'll get paid to be. Um, I mean, in terms we're also plugged into the ERCOT markets. We're tracking pricing at every 5 seconds it changes. Um, so unforecasted peaks is usually from an outage, right? So if we have a project in Dallas and the nuclear plant goes down, we're going to see that because there's going to be a deficit in the immediate output. And that's where pricing is going to jump, and we're going to reverse it by injecting power into the grid. Vice versa, solar can ramp very quickly, and there can be a positive load flow, and turn pricing negative, and we can charge. There's a lot of different avenues that we'll be forecasting on that account. But I guess it's like on an immediate basis, yeah, we see pricing jump all the time. But as you zoom out and look at, load growth, load profiles over an extended period and how we do site selection, I think it's more just the inherent growth of Texas, and I mean really anywhere, but it's the inherent growth of that area and what's projected to be installed and what is the capacity in that region can to support it. So there's a lot of interconnections that are going in on the grid right now, and it's almost all renewable.
Okay. Yeah. And in the next year for SMT Energy, where do you guys see yourselves heading from a growth perspective?
Yeah, I think we like our size. You know, we're a small team, but we're quick and efficient. We're continuing to develop in Texas and the surrounding areas. We have a strong portfolio ahead of us, and I hope we construct it. But we're continuing to construct everything that we've developed to date. You know, we're underway with uh, over 200 megawatt and almost 400 megawatt hours worth of energy storage project right now, broken dirt. So yeah, we're underway with a lot of work right now. We got a lot of work ahead of us. I hope we continue to grow. I hope a lot of the projects that we have in the pipeline come to fruition. We get financing and keep rolling here. Hopefully these tariffs subside. It's a tough environment right now.
Yeah, from all the other solar businesses I've been speaking to, it seems like the tariffs have been hitting pretty hard.
How are the solar guys doing? Are they hurting hard?
I mean, from one other business owner I spoke to, he is gets all of his stuff from China and almost I think he tries to avoid shipping it to the US directly when he is working with international people. So you have to work your way around it almost, and it ends up being a bit of a hassle to do that.
Yeah, a lot of the module guys have been dancing around direct shipping from China, but there's still a ton of manufacturing that occurs in China. You know, the splitting of the silicone and the physical cells are mostly made in China, but then they ship them around in Cambodia, Thailand, uh, a lot of different areas. India has a ton of manufacturing as well, but they manufacture and thus that's the certificate of origin for the module. So they can kind of dance around some of these hard hit Chinese tariffs that we're impending right now. But um, I don't know. Inverters are all Chinese made. You know, it's just tough to find them. And the transformer industry was hit really hard during COVID, and it was just starting to bounce back, and I have a feeling that this is going to hit it hard again. It was like 2 years for transformers. It's one of the longest lead pieces of equipment to get a solar project on board. Really, any any DG or transmission level project. So I hope I hope this supply chain can withstand this little bump, and we keep rolling here.
Yeah. Do you guys see yourselves just forcing the issue and just still getting shipments from where, I mean, overseas, like China, for example? Or have you looked at alternative manufacturing routes?
I know there's some industries that can handle 145% tariffs, but I don't I don't see anybody in the renewable industry being able to digest that. You know, we're basically 2.5xing the price of a module, battery or solar, whatever you want to call that module. But gosh, I don't think there's going to be a lot of projects that pencil at at that amount. I mean, the module pricing is, 30-40% of the price of a project. You know, that's solar speaking. And in energy storage, it's probably a little more. So you're in 2xing this, you're increasing the price of the project by 50%, something like that. So it is a very considerable amount. You know, these projects are not heavy labor. You know, it's heavy equipment purchasing. That's a major component of the CapEx. So yeah, I don't think a lot. I mean, there might be some juicy projects that can handle this, but I think the vast majority, like definitely in the 90-95% range, are going to drop out, pause, not be able to digest this, and they're going to have to figure out a different way. So there's not a lot of places to pivot though. You know, like domestic manufacturing of modules is just of battery modules is not here to support our industry at this scale. We're just ramping up, and same with solar panels. It's like, trying to get into the tier ones. You got the First Solar guys, but they're a different silicone manufacturer, and it's just tough to make it all work, less efficient. So yeah, man, it's a tough time. I think it's just mostly got to subside to keep us alive here.
The same way in like the auto industry, how prices are just going up higher for the consumer. Are you guys not able to survive in the same way where you can just charge your prices higher as well? Or are people not willing to pay for that?
So I mean, we're participating in the market, right? And that's held to, I guess the price of the energy is based off of the bid price from all the other suppliers of power or energy at the time, right? So if I'm a gas plant and I'm competing with all the other things that are diluting the grid, solar, geothermal, nuclear, coal, natural gas, like that's all driving what the price of energy is. So if the price of natural gas, coal, and nuclear all of a sudden spike, solar guys are going to have a great time, right? Because the price of energy is probably going to rise, and their prices did not rise. But to increase the price of energy, it has to be across the board, right? Everything has to kind of go up, or you know, a nuclear is what, 20% of the grid, probably less now. Call it 10% penetration. So if you double the price of nuclear, it's going to have an effect, but it's not going to have a 100% effect on it. So what's happening here is, what are tariffs doing? Well, it's definitely tough for battery guys to get batteries. It's definitely tough for solar guys to get more modules, but those guys are already paid. Or, what's in the ground is in the ground. The O&M departments, guys that need parts that are probably coming from Asia, from China, are going to have problems, and that's probably hitting everybody. Coal plant definitely has parts that come from China, natural gas, nuclear. I'm sure it's all coming over there. I mean, it's supply chain, supply chain. So I don't know. I think it'll have an impact on pricing. Um, but how do we get financing on these projects is not based off of it's not based off of like a weird tariff impact that anyone can really forecast. Like, who can forecast this? You can't. You're going off backcasting, you're going off of historical data and what they think is going to be a reliable output for the future. So, it's going to be tough until this is predictable. And I don't know. I think that the short answer is no. The renewable energy cannot absorb 145% tariffs. It's just a little much.
Yeah, for sure. And Kevin, thanks so much for joining us today. Where can our audience connect with you online or find you?
Gosh, I'd prefer if people don't talk to me. But, uh, I'm definitely on LinkedIn. I don't have any real social media. I'm just a guy that likes to talk about renewables. So yeah, feel free to slide in my LinkedIn DMs. Probably the best place to find me.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
All right, thanks, Julian. See you, man.